We move on to Liverpool then, because Liverpool are also Liverpool are thinking about wages, thinking about contracts, because they've got 3 stars, and you would probably argue the 3 stars of this team, all with a year left to go on their deals. There's Mohamed Salah. Deal is up next year, obviously been heavily linked with Saudi Arabia. There's Virgil van Dijk, who we haven't really heard rumours about an exit, but was the one reliable presence for them in defence last season and kind of held it together by himself. And you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, the most interesting of all of them, because he's peak age. He's been linked with Real Madrid. With Klopp leaving, it feels like maybe there's smoke there. Now, the interesting thing here is that I think we all have a very high opinion of Liverpool's kind of backroom staff, their operation generally. So is it surprising to you that these 3 guys have all got to this stage in their contracts, Ravi?
I think first of all, I would say that just because we haven't seen or heard doesn't mean they're not working on this. So I think that's something that we need to acknowledge. I think one thing we've seen with Liverpool or some of the more buttoned up clubs is that a lot of times the most important information doesn't leak until the last minute or doesn't come out. So this could be one of those where they are in talks with all of them. Something might get announced in the next few months. Who knows? Now, leaving that aside, obviously, we're now working off of the assumption that, okay, what do we think of these 3 guys? I think all 3 are slightly different cases. In some ways, very different cases. I think Mo Salah, to me, with the interest on the Saudi Arabia, I'm sure they definitely approached, or I'm positive they probably approached him and it could be an issue of amount of money and length of contract. And with the Saudi deal, maybe in the back of their minds, they probably want a longer deal from Liverpool to maybe Mo Salah would probably want to retire in Liverpool. Like maybe that's kind of how they're doing it on the agents, the representation of Mo Salah. Now Liverpool looks at it and he's a winger forward, wide forward, that he's 32, he's going to turn 33. They may not be that keen on giving him a very long contract. So that may be something there with the length of the contract with him. Mm-hmm. And it's normal. Like I think if you are running a team, you would think about it the same way. Wingers and forwards like him, the way he plays, his age is not where he's going to get any better. I think as you go further along, I think you would think his effectiveness is going to decrease. So then you're cautious about giving a longer deal, cautious about giving a big deal and tying yourself up for multiple years. So that could be one with Mo. With Van Dijk, I think it's somewhat of a similar conversation, but because he's a center back, I think there's a little bit more leeway. And as you mentioned, he's the one that's been the most steady presence for them in an injury ravaged season at that position. And still, he's also getting up in age. So that could be another one where a difference in where they see or what the length of the contract, they see how they want to, between the two parties. And I don't know for sure, but I thought there were some rumors that there may be some Saudi interest in him, but obviously I don't think it was as widely publicized as Mo Salah's, right? Mm-hmm. And now coming to Trent, I think this one for me, to some degree, I would be surprised if they haven't already are in advanced stages, if they aren't already in advanced stages of a new deal for him, just because he's coming into his prime, or he's in his prime, either 25 fullback is in his prime. Very important player for the team, highly productive. So I would be surprised if they aren't in advanced negotiations with him to extend his new deal. Also, looking at even with the change in the manager, Arne Slot played with the right back at Feyenoord with similar qualities. I think when we talked about Trent's or Real Madrid's interest in Trent, we thought that could be the move. If that were to actually happen, then I can't get Troida. That's his name.
Getraude,
yeah. Yeah, someone like that. So it's not that the coach wants to play a different style or he doesn't fit in his plan. So I don't think that's the case here. So my guess is that we may hear about this after the window closes that, hey, this is a new deal for we just agreed on a new deal for Trent. That's kind of how I feel. What do you think?
I think that Liverpool will have made an offer to Trent. I guess the question is, how much money does he want, and how tempted is he by Real Madrid? So I don't think that he's reached this stage because Liverpool have been remiss, in trying to get him to the negotiating table. I just think that maybe he's thinking, I could just go to Real Madrid next year and have half a career there. And to be honest with you, probably get paid less at Real Madrid. Like Liverpool will pay him a fortune. And Real Madrid actually don't tend to go crazy with wages, except for like their really top guys, right? But you can see the appeal. Given that there's the kind of part of me that thinks it'll just get done because he's also a boyhood Liverpool fan, and uprooting yourself and going off to Spain is very appealing from a footballing perspective, but it might not be appealing from a personal point of view. I think with Van Dijk and Salah, I assume that it's really just that Liverpool maybe want to give them, maybe like a 1+1 to Van Dijk or something, maybe a 2+1 to Salah, and Salah's like, I'm still kind of a superstar, and people want to pay me like a superstar, so pay me that way or I'll go. And honestly, I think the public opinion on this is changing. But previously, 3 or 4 years ago, it felt like it was really terrible for a player to leave on a free, and there's still a little bit of that attitude. But I remember, for example, Aubameyang getting that huge deal very late on at Arsenal. There's been a similar thing around Son at Spurs. Getting yourself locked into one of these contracts for one of these guys, no matter how good they are, ultimately, I don't think it's worth it. I think it's better to move on and accept that you might have a little bit of time in the wilderness. You drop a couple of places. To me, that's better than really reducing your maneuverability, I guess, in terms of your squad building.
I agree. I think that's literally probably what they're looking at. They're looking at the squad as a whole, and managing how does it look in 25, 26? How does it look in 26, 27? And what doing X in 24, 25 will make us how we will look in the next couple of seasons. I think they are definitely looking at things or in that horizon and seeing how this will affect that. So obviously there are players that you have to give longer contracts, especially if you're someone like Trent. They probably have no problem giving him a long contract. But if you're talking about someone entering 30s, or he's kind of well past 30s in 32, 33, then you're more wary because you don't want to get tied up in the future.